All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from. Okay, I think we just have uh, people are joining in. So please, if you are currently on this call, please do well to drop a message on the product management track on Discord. So we have other people joining in also. So please, if you are on this call, either you are joining us on Twitch, on LinkedIn, or via YouTube, please do well to drop a message on the product management track. So we have other people joining in, and we already have your instructor here, Yudia, who is a product manager and is based in Canada. He will be taking us on today's topic on a typical day of a product manager. So welcome once again, Yudia, and thank you so much for being here today. So yeah, you can start now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Hi, everyone. My name's Uday Sangha, and I'm a product manager based in Toronto, Canada, and I work for PwC. One request I do have, Ella, and I'm not sure if she's still there, is I would really love to field any questions. However, Ella, are you there? Hey, so I was gonna say,
Oh, sure, I'm here.
I would really love to, field questions as I'm doing this. I think if I just go through the content, it's going to be a very short session indeed. I think it's important for it to be interactive. So, Ella, I don't have access to the Discord chat or any of the other chat channels you're using. So, I would request everyone listening to just drop in their questions in the chat. And then, Ella, if you can just come in here and you can feel free to interrupt me and then say, oh,
Okay. Okay, so Yudia, what I'm going to do is that so we have a section for comments here,
I,
and what I'm
yeah.
going to do is I'm going to display it on the screen so you'll be able to see the questions.
Oh, no, I do see this. Okay, I can see it on my
Yeah.
side,
Okay.
so I think we're
Oh yeah,
good.
perfect. Yeah, we're good. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. So I would request, everybody watching this just to go ahead and drop in your questions as we're going through this, and I'm happy to answer them as we go along, and I'm happy to open up a broader discussion on any topic that you're interested in. Does that sound good? Can a few people just write good in the chat, like sounds good? And hopefully they're coming through. All right. Well, anyways, you can drop the questions in the chat, or you can reach out through Ella, and we'll field the questions as we go along. But please, I encourage everybody to, let's try to make this as interactive as possible. Oh, there we go. I'm just getting a bit of a delay on the questions, I guess. Um, but I encourage everyone to make this as interactive of a session as possible. And please don't mind, the questions are a little bit delayed on my side. So let's go over our agenda for the day. We'll start with a background both on myself and on my role at PwC. I think this is relevant just to get some context as to like the work I do, and then also understand that the day in the life that I'm describing, it might differ for different kinds of organizations and different kinds of products. So we'll go into that. After that, I want to go through the different parties involved in building a product. So, what all the different teams and roles are. And again, I'm hoping that this can help us better understand and appreciate our day in the life and how we work with all these different groups of people. The third section is stages in product development. So this is a little bit more high level, like when we start from, let's say, ideation, like, oh, we want to build this product. Maybe at this point we're still unsure if we should or we should not build, all the way to the product has launched and now we're gathering feedback and it's out there in the world. Uh, we'll just go over those stages because depending on the stage, the day in the life will differ somewhat. And then after that, probably in second half, I hope to go into day in the life more specifically, and I've broken down my day into sort of four stages. So there's pre-work, which is whatever time one may wake up till about 9 a.m., which is official start of the working day. So let's say 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Then there's morning, of course, 9 to about noon. Then there's afternoon, noon to about 5 o'clock. Then everybody logs off, of course, and then it's post work, like whatever you may do in the evening. And we will go from there. In terms of content, I think we'll get through relatively quickly. Afterwards, we can do a Q&A session as well. And like I said beforehand, if you have any questions as I'm going through, please just let me know, and I'm happy to cover them. I see in the chat, Jem has said pre-work. Is there a question there? All right, perhaps not, or perhaps it's just taking time to come through. So let me know if there's a question about pre-work or what this entails. In the meantime, I will get started. So background, who am I? Like I said, my name is Uday Sangha, and I work as part of the products and technology team here at PwC Canada. How did I get into, for sure, how did I get into product management uh, to begin with? Well, I started my career when I joined PwC right out of school in their management consulting practice. I worked as an operations consultant for a couple of years, and I was mainly focused on asset intensive industries, so mines, utilities companies, a little bit of manufacturing, a little bit of transportation, that sort of thing. And through one of my friends who I had actually joined the firm with, he mentioned that there was a spot that he'd recently moved to the PwC products and technology team, and there was a spot to go there and be a product manager. And at this point, I didn't have too much experience with product management. I did, however, have the opportunity in my operations consulting team to help build this tool, this platform for clients that we were working on, and I enjoyed that very much. And also, I wanted to be somewhere where I had a little bit more autonomy and was able to take leadership myself rather than be at the very bottom of a hierarchy as I was in consulting. And products and technology gave me that opportunity. So, sure enough, I took it. Now, what does product management at PwC look like, and what is this products and technology team? So, products and technology, hereafter I'll refer to it as P&T at PwC. It's an internal facing group, and the mandate is to build and deliver technology solutions for PwC's client facing lines of business. So, when we think of PwC is a big four firm, and some of their client facing lines of business, like how they make their money, is through audit services. So they're an auditor. It's through tax services, right? So they have tax accountants as well. It's through consulting, which was my old group. So they provide a wide assortment of consultancy and advisory services. And then they have financial advisory, which sometimes they call deals, but it can be considered part of consulting as well. Uh, Remote and hybrid PM jobs. Let's get that. Let's save that one to till the Q&A maybe. I see that comments come through. So where was I? Yeah, so P&T is an internal facing line of business, so we don't actually go out into the market and sell our work. Rather, we are there to build and deliver technology solutions for our different lines of service. In some cases, this is fairly simple, like it's just that we will take a product that maybe another territory has built, and we will just bring it to Canada. So that's just a little bit of paperwork and commercialization and getting things ready. In some cases, it's more traditional, like product management work, where you are going and you're actually building a product all the way from scratch, or you're doing a new release for a product. And that's maybe more traditional, what you think of as product management. So that's really exciting. The type of work I did is, personally, I was responsible for supporting our assurance, which is our audit, and our tax lines of service. So I helped to build products that would be used both by our internal PwC staff. So, like your average tax accountant or your average auditor, they will use these tools, but also tools that would be used by our clients and our our firm's clients, like customers who were using these audit and tax services. They would also use the tools that we were working on and building. So for us, our main client and stakeholder, what the relationship is like, is that P&T will work directly for the business. So let's say there is some partner or director in tax who wants to build something. So we will work very closely with them, and based on that, we will build a product, or will provide them with a pre-existing product and set that up for them. And it's sort of like a partnership model like this. Um, just at the end of this background section, as we near the end, I want to say some caveats. Is what I'll be describing for the rest of this presentation is my day in the life experience. Um, I'm sure this is relatively applicable if you work for maybe like an insurance company or another big four firm like Deloitte or KPMG. Likely it's not applicable across the board, like any kind of product management role. That may differ on the organization, like the company you work for, the scope. So, what your responsibilities are of a product manager. As we in the next step, I'm going to talk about the different parties involved. So it's important to keep in mind that for us at PwC, we have all these different parties and different people to do each role. In other places, you might not, and that responsibility might sit with the product manager. Differs on product type as well. And just some of the key takeaways that I want at the end of this lesson, at the end of I guess the 1 hour, is I want you guys to see some general product management skills, like what would be good to have and what you can expect to do as a product manager, generally speaking. An idea of what it takes to build a product, like I said, all the way from like having an idea and saying we want to build this, all the way to actually building and launching it. And then see how agile might be applied in a real world setting. uh, okay, I'll now pause because we're at the end of this first section, this background section, and go into questions. How easy is it to get an entry product manager role? Can you talk a bit more about the ways a product manager can help an interior design brand of 10 years existence scale their business? Let's take that in two parts. So first of all, in terms of entry level, generally they have product associate roles, and I will recommend that you look at this, that you look for that title on LinkedIn. So a product associate might not be a full-fledged product manager. They might be more like an assistant product manager or somebody who works on the product team. And this can be a great way if you have no background to get started with product management. Now, in what ways can a product manager help an interior design brand of 10 years exist and scale their business? Maybe we save that question for the end. I see it in the comments there. Maybe we go through the what work a product manager does and the day in the life. And that question is answered on its own. And if it's not, maybe you can dig a little bit deeper. Now, what's this? If you're starting your career in product management all over again with the knowledge you have, what would be the core areas you focus on to get the skills through to landing your first job? I would say definitely one of the biggest skills might be leadership experience. I would say this can come in multiple different ways. I mean, you can get this from volunteering, from another organization, from volunteering your time with a non for profit. I'd say leadership skills are very important. Maybe another related skill set I would say to focus on is communication skills. I mean, as you will see with product management, it's a lot of talking to different stakeholders. It's really valuable to be able to communicate clearly and effectively. One role which I think some, I guess, jobs which I think lend themselves really well to product management is, maybe this is a little bit biased, but consulting. Just because in consulting you develop those presentation and communication skills, like you have the opportunity to come up with ideas and present them very clearly. You have that stakeholder management experience, like you deal with clients, which is always really important, and you work within a team. So I think that's great experience. Another field I can say that might be really valuable is sales or business development. I think again, like a lot of those skills, like being able to self-regulate and manage yourself, and being able to communicate clearly and concisely, you can build those from a sales role. In terms of technical skills, you can learn about like the different tools and methodologies used. So perhaps Agile is good. Maybe you take a certified Scrum Master course. Maybe you learn about Jira or Azure DevOps as tools used in product management. And if you hope to work in a very technical area, perhaps you can build up expertise. So, for example, if you're really focused on data, then it might be wise doing some reading up on that. If you're focused on integrations, then studying that closely. Or getting an industry expertise and understanding, and being able to develop a viewpoint on what a certain industry looks like and what their products are. So if you're, let's say, interested in healthcare, that's something that you can do. um, and those would be my advices uh, to answer that question. If there are any more questions, please just drop them in the chat. If not, I'll go into the different parties involved in building a product, building and launching a product. Uh, do product managers get paid as high as software engineers? I think it's definitely a range, more so for product managers, as in it depends on your organization, your level. I would say somebody who's like maybe a VP product or director of product, they will make more. Somebody who's at a startup where they have a package with equity and a very high salary as well. That could be beneficial. If you're working as a product associate, maybe in a relatively large company that's not very product focused, perhaps PwC could fall under that category. maybe you will not make as much as software engineers. I think with software engineers, they definitely start a little bit higher. That's just based on my observations and what I've seen from my friends and colleagues. But definitely, product management has a lot of scope to grow into different areas. If you join a startup, there are benefits, such as getting that equity, which can have a large payout. And I say it's definitely comfortable career choice. Like you will not be destitute. So that's my answer. Okay, let's go to the next part, which is different parties involved in building and launching a product. Again, this is in the context of my role at PwC Canada and the work I do. So, first group I would say is their product managers, and they are in charge of, overseeing the product, all the way from planning, where the decision has been made to build a certain product, through to launch. So that includes gathering all of the requirements for a product, understanding what needs to be built, and how, well, let's say what needs to be built mostly, and then actually getting it built and answering any questions for the development team. At PwC, we also have project managers. Here, there's a little bit of overlap with product managers because any release that you're building or your project that you're trying to, a product that you're trying to launch is a project as well. And project managers typically they work side by side with product managers, but whereas a product manager is very much focused with the product aspect, so that being, what are our features, what does the user experience look like, XYZ. Project manager may be more focused with, hey, this is our budget, this is our resourcing, we do or do not have the resources that we need to complete this work. um, these are the different groups that we're working towards, this is what a project plan looks like, that sort of thing. After that, we have designers who are like, you know, your UI UX designers who are actually saying, oh, in detail, like for this screen, this is what the screen should look like, and this is what the user experience of clicking through the screen is. Generally, they'll come up with that with help from product manager, of course, and that is their role. They are mostly involved when the product has already started being built. We'll talk about that in the next thing in stages of product development. After that, you have delivery managers. These are sort of like your scrum masters. And they make sure that, as far as sprint by sprint is coming along, everything is happening correctly and everything's going well. Um, and they manage, the tech team that's working on this. So a little bit more granular than what the product managers are doing. Again, while product manager may be, relatively high level, like, hey, these are features, delivery manager, and same thing with project manager. Delivery manager will be very much on the ground and attending every sprint meeting and taking the lead on what's being built. After that, you have BAs or business analysts. These are typically folks who will write the actual user stories that then the development team, the software developers will use. I see we've got a question. Um, I would say LinkedIn for all of your job opportunities. Product marketing as well. It's not a field I frankly know too much about. And I think there's a lot of ambiguity in these titles. Like some places call it product manager, growth manager, product marketing manager. But I would suggest, LinkedIn for all of this, and just apply from there. Anyways, I was talking about, I believe, business analysts. So, these are folks that they are going to take the requirements that a product manager might come up with based on their work and their discussions. And then they're actually going to turn them into granular, like user stories, which the tech team will take and work on. After that, we have the tech lead and the software devs. So these are folks who will be doing the actual coding and building of whatever the product is. Again, they'll do this based on the user stories they receive from the business analyst, and based on the under the oversight of the delivery managers and the product and project managers. Then you have your QAs. Those guys are mostly testing what's been built by the devs, and they support with quality assurance testing. Then you have your solutions architect. Uh, yeah, that's the slide. I didn't want to prepare a lot of slideware for this. I was hoping that it can be more casual discussion. So that is what I intend to be showing. That's my one and only slide that you have, the agenda slide. So I was saying after that you have solutions architects, which will sort of sit over the tech team, the development team, and think about how they want the product to be built, and they will make architecture decisions. So there's that. Um, Following that, you have your change management and compliance. Change management and commercialization individuals, and these are typically folks who are managing everything non-product that has to do with the launch of the product. So getting the right kind of communications out to the end users, developing the right kind of training, if there are processes that need to be changed, or different stakeholder groups that need to be brought on board, they'll do this. And then we have our compliance team. This is because in a large organization like PwC, definitely we cannot just build and launch a product without doing the required reviews. So they'll make sure that we've completed all of the relevant reviews and done our due diligence, and sort of dotted our i's and crossed our t's, to actually go ahead and launch the product with proper approvals. And then we have what I like to think of as business stakeholders, customers. So for me, this was, you can also think of this as product owner. I think that's used a lot. And for me, this was many times, somebody, a senior level stakeholder in tax or in audit, and somebody who's sort of sponsoring, or a representative of the sponsor who wants to build this product, and they're sort of going through and approving the requirements and saying, yes, we want to do this, no, we don't want to do this, and going through. So typically this might be called product owner more broadly. And these are the different roles involved at PwC. Again, I want to say, as a caveat, that this is based on my experience at PwC. Likely it differs, and likely a lot of these roles that I described, specifically BA, where it includes writing the user stories, probably some change management, commercialization, delivery manager, project manager. That all falls in the lap of a product manager, maybe in a smaller team or an organization. Um, I'll now field any questions before we get to the next part. I think we're doing relatively well on time. We're about halfway through, so please drop your questions in the chat. And I see Shanasa has just asked, what is the most challenging aspects in the life of a product manager? Um, I will say likely it is just that there are so many different moving pieces and components that you have to keep an eye on and manage. Like I said, you're working with all these different folks, and everybody has their own style of working. Everybody has their own. Everybody has their opinion. Um, and it can be really tough. Just wrangling all these different stakeholders and pushing them to coalescing them around a common product vision and a common goal and working with them. So definitely a lot of internal stakeholder management. The other, I guess, challenging aspect is a lot of my day is just a lot of meetings and discussions, and that can be not only it's very taxing mentally. Like imagine 8 9 hours a day you're just in back to back to back meetings and you're just talking the whole time, but also it means that if you actually want to do the work, like put together a slideshow or a document or any other deliverable, then that sort of falls to after work or before work or during the meetings, God forbid, which isn't always great. Are there times where you were under pressure at work to deliver a task? I think definitely, in terms of delivering a task, we would be delivering a release for a product, right? And you can face a lot of pressure, especially from, like I said, your product owners or your business stakeholders who say, oh, we want this as quick as possible and as cheap as possible. But maybe you've heard of the project management trifecta, which is in terms of time, cost, and scope. You can have any two. So, that's also a responsibility of a product manager, that, helping your uh, stakeholders or your product owners understand that sort of trade off between the three aspects and say, okay, if you want it very quickly, then it might cost more, or we might have to reduce the scope of what we're doing. If not, we can keep our current scope, or we can add on to the scope, but it might cost more money or take more time. And if we're trying to save on time, then again, we might have to decrease scope, or we might have to, sorry, if we're trying to save on cost, we might have to increase the time. Like we might have to stretch it out and do a slower burn, or we might have to decrease our scope. The other way you can deliver when you're under pressure is say that you will deliver incrementally. So maybe we cut down our release into smaller portions and say, okay, we can give you this much a little bit sooner, so then you can start on it, and you have something of value there. And subsequent releases we deliver a little bit later on. Okay, with that, I'll get into the next section. Again, if there are any questions, most welcome. I will request that you please continue adding them in the chat if you have any questions about what I've said. So, different stages in the product development life cycle. I like to think of product development life cycle as 4 stages. Those broadly being strategy, a planning, delivery, or the build, which is the third stage, and then the fourth stage being operationalization, or post launch. So in the strategy stage, um, really it's that somebody has an idea, but at this point you're not so sure if it's even worth building it or not. So it's very early stage, And at this point, it would be relevant. Like I said, you've not decided that to build like somebody has identified a problem, and you've not decided at this point whether the best thing is actually to build um, a product to solve this. I see the organization has sent in a Google form. Is this anything I should be reviewing? Well, I don't think so. Let me know, Ella.
Oh yeah, okay. That's just for the students for attendance. So you can go on. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so like I said, at this point, somebody's identified a problem. You're not sure if the solution is to build a product or do n number of other things. So at this point, you are just sort of doing your high level study and review. You might be thinking, oh, is it a better, does a product like this exist out in the market? Like, is there something that we can buy that will solve the problem that we're facing, or do we need to build a product? Is there something in the case of PwC? PwC is a network of firms. So there is, PwC Canada, PwC US, PwC UK, Germany, India, wherever. I believe y'all are located in Nigeria, Ella mentioned. So there's PwC Nigeria also. And these different firms are connected but sometimes apart. So there might be like, oh, if PwC Canada needs something, is this something that PwC Germany might have, and can we import it? And that can be valuable. And then from there you will develop what's called a business case if you believe that you do need to build a product. And that's to say a very high level document, like what are we trying to build, what are our goals, and then most importantly, what will be the ROI, the return on investment on this thing we are building. So we're investing a certain amount of money, and maybe you have a high level estimate at this point, and you say, okay, if we invest, let's say, $500,000 on this product or on this release for this product, what will be our vectors of return? Like, how will we make our money back, and what will that payback period look like? And these are all relevant things to consider in a strategy phase. So once you're done the strategy phase, and maybe at this point you've determined that yes, we do want to build a certain product, or we want to build a new release on a product, and you believe that yes, there is a good business case for this is economically viable to do. After that, you get into what I like to think of as the planning stage. This is where you'll do some requirements gathering. So you usually sit with your business owners or your business stakeholders. Sometimes you might do customer research, and you really want to chart out at a high level, like what are the different features that this product will have, and what are the different requirements under that feature. By that, I mean, let's say you are building, and I'll give a non PwC example. Let's say you're building a dating app. So you might say, okay, in the dating app, we have our user profile, and this needs to contain XYZ requirements, and you go through with that. And then you might say dating app needs to have matching algorithm. And then you say in the matching algorithm, it needs to have XYZ requirements. And then you might say, oh, it needs to have a chat function for users to chat with each other, and that has to have XYZ requirements. And then you can say, oh, it needs to be able to integrate with your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever social media, and then the requirements under that. So you would say, what are the different capabilities, and below those, what are the different features that you want to build, and you would put that together on paper. It's actually called a product requirements doc. You can Google it as well. and that should be the outcome of what you want to build. Also, during this time, you would think upon your time, scope, cost, and resourcing. So, okay, to build this, this is a rough timeline of how long it's going to take. These are the different resources, so the different people I will require. So, this many developers, this many onshore, this many offshore, for this long. I need one or two designers, and you would tackle that and come up with your resourcing, and based on that, you would come up with an overall product cost. At this point at PwC, we would go back to the business stakeholders or product owner, and we would say, okay, and in detail, this is what we're looking to build. This is the overall scope. So during requirements gathering, you go through and maybe you put together, you put down everything that you want to build, and then based on that, you trim the scope and you say, okay, for this release, let's focus on just these requirements as a subset to make it a little bit more manageable. And you will say, okay, this is a scope we can deliver in this much time and at this much cost. And again, they have an opportunity to reevaluate and say, oh, it's okay, or we want it a little bit sooner, or we want a little bit more, or we want it a little bit cheaper, and you can negotiate and have that discussion. After that, you actually get into the delivery and building after the planning. So this is actually really building whatever product it may be. And this can involve following up on your requirements gathering. So in the planning, we discussed how you did requirements gathering, and you said, okay, for our hypothetical dating app that we mentioned, you might have a chat function, and we said, oh, we want X, Y, Z. Now is time to say, okay, what does that actually look like on the ground, and let's put together some designs and see how these features will actually work together, how these requirements will work together, and what that will look like as a user experience. So at this point, there's designs coming in. Based on that, there might be meetings with business stakeholders or product owners and product managers, and just coming to a common understanding. And then those designs will be sent to your business analyst, who will put together the relevant user stories, and then your dev team will work on it, and then QA team will test it. At the same time, during this phase rather, you might be doing change management and preparation, so putting together training guides, um, and preparing for this launch in other ways. You might be doing some marketing activity, and that all is that at that point. Also, as you get close to launch, you will be working with your compliance or maybe legal team to just make sure you're doing everything the right way and you're not running aground of any regulatory requirements. So there is that. All that is in the delivery and build phase. And then after that, you have operationalization and post launch. So this is after the product has gone live. That's the end of delivery and sort of the beginning of this phase. At this point, you might be gathering feedback on your product, like, oh, how do people like it? What would they like to see next in the next release? Is this helping them? You might also be calculating, okay, we imagine that this would help us get this much ROI in this way. How are we tracking against that? And what could we be doing better? There might also at this point be some troubleshooting or bug fixes, like, oh, this thing went wrong or it's not working as expected. So this is how we fix it. And then maybe we do like a follow up, like release a patch or something to help it out. Okay, I have about 15 minutes left, so then I will get into a day in the life of a product manager, but again, I'd like to pause here for a second to catch my breath as well, but also to ask if you have any questions about what I just said, please drop it in the chat. And I think day in the life I should be able to finish in about 10 minutes, so we'll save like the last little bit for Q&A. Okay, I don't see any questions coming through, so maybe I'll keep on going. So day in the life, pre-work, this is what I like to think of as your quiet time in the morning before the day actually starts. And here you might be doing some preparation of slide decks and deliverables or documents that you need for the day. You might be preparing for meetings and workshops that you're going to happen. It's your quiet time to think and troubleshoot and solve issues and then get out emails and communications. So that's all what's done before the day starts. Your morning, which is typically 9 to noon or about 1 o'clock, it's usually reserved for daily meetings and huddles. So your daily huddle from a sprint perspective, it would be meeting with dev team, uh, and understanding what is being built and just sort of doing that sprint review like, oh, this was what these were the user stories, we've gotten this far on building them, and this is how we're proceeding against our sprint plan. But also I typically use morning to meet with other key stakeholders. So I meet with my project managers daily, and I just say, hey, how are you doing, and what's going on. And I do a similar thing with my designers. Like I meet with them daily and look at how they're getting along. Goal of these morning meetings or daily meetings is to get an update on status, collect pending action items and points of troubles, so things people need from me, and making sure that they can be unblocked and making sure that they're able to do their work smoothly. You might update your project tracker or whatever you're using for the dev team. Their huddle, they will update their sprint board. um, these meetings are typically led by a product manager, delivery manager, project manager, and based on for some of these meetings, like let's say I'm meeting with my designers or my project managers or another product manager. If you don't need this meeting, then you will cancel it if not needed. And you might have like a daily recurring meeting, but you might say, oh, okay, we don't really have any updates today, so we'll leave that. In the afternoon, you will be doing requirements gathering or design workshops. So here you will be meeting with your product owner and business stakeholders. You'll be gathering information which can be turned into user stories, and you'll also approve and work on designs. So I think I mentioned that a little bit, but this is really, where you're taking your previous your product plan and saying, "Hey, this is what I want to build," and actually putting it into designs, and you're collecting the information you need to give to the development team and say, "Okay, you're building exactly this." You have your different agile meetings. So you have backlog refinement where the business analyst will come in with user stories that they've built and designs that have been approved by the business owner, and they'll sort of share them with the development team. You have sprint planning where you'll say, okay, for the next sprint, and sprints are typically 2 weeks, you'll say these are all the user stories we want to work on. You have your sprint demos, which is like, oh, at the end of the sprint, like, oh, this is what all we've built. And then you have a sprint retrospective, which might be, oh, this is what went right, this is what went wrong. After that, other kinds of meetings you might do in the afternoon are stakeholder and project level meetings. So there is usually At PwC, we have steering committee updates, which is like for senior level stakeholders and really the people who are sponsoring this build, who are giving the money, to tell them what's going on and keep them updated on any issues and action items and just bring the team together. So typically, this will not be every day, it'll rather be once every couple of weeks. And then you might have project governance meetings where I like to get together with tech lead, design lead, delivery manager, and project manager. And I like to bring everybody all together and just talk about issues and risks for the meeting as well. And you might have any other update meetings. Sure. I don't think that was a question, but sure. And you might have any so you might have any other meetings, and then you may have ad hoc meetings as well, so where you discuss issues and find solutions. You may pass resolutions. You help keep members unblocked. So let's say in the daily huddle someone raised something like, oh, I have this issue, can you help solve this? You do that. And you might be meeting with other parties and teams, so that's on an ad hoc basis. Generally, for me, I worked on two products simultaneously. One was where I was building it from scratch. So it was a first release, and one was another massive release. So I was kept pretty busy. Generally, the planning phase is a little bit less busy before you start the actual build. The build gets busier, and there are a lot more meetings, as you can see. And those will usually go on for most of your day. And then post work is, you know, send out emails, plan for the next day, uh, book your meetings for the next day, and that you might do for an hour after 5 o'clock. And that's day in the life of a product manager. Um, that's pretty much the end of what all I have to say. We have a few minutes, so if there are any questions, comments, please let me know, and please message it in the chat. Otherwise, it was a pleasure, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you want to catch up on the side, I'll be happy to. I see my LinkedIn's popped up there. And I'll be happy to chat with anybody one on one if need be. So I'll wait for your questions to come up in the chat. I see Jem has said, business case should contain requirements. I would say think about bifurcating the two, Jem. And the reason is even to come up with the requirements, that might require a resource investment in and of itself, like that planning phase. And to say that, oh, this is all what we want to build, it might take time, and it might take a lot of space. So before that, I would say in the business case, you want to come up with yes no decision on whether it's even wise to build what you're building. And then, yeah, fully agree. The product requirements document, which might come a little bit after the business case, or based on the product requirements document, you may go back and refine your business case. That's where you'll have your requirements. And definitely, with any requirement, it would have our time and resources and cost. So, what is there? Yeah, thank you. Uh, if there are any other questions, comments, happy to address them. If not, Ella, maybe you come back in and we can wrap this up.
All right, thank you so much, you dear. Yeah, I believe you gave us a very thorough explanation on typical life of a product manager. And I believe all the questions are already clear and we all understood today's class. So thank you much once again, Yudia, for today's class. So please, everyone on, if you are joining via YouTube, LinkedIn, on Twitch, please do well to connect with Yudia. Sorry for, I don't know if I pronounce, I believe I
Uday.
got
It's
that right,
Uday.
your
It's
pronunciation.
Uday, Ella.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Okay, so please let's do well to connect with him. And if you have more questions, you can connect with him via LinkedIn and you can ask your question. And also, you could also watch the replay on YouTube. So if you are not following us on YouTube, please do well to follow us on YouTube. Top Universe, you can follow us on YouTube and go back and replay this video and watch. And if you have questions, you can connect with Yudia and ask your questions. So thank you so much, Yudia, for today's class. Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, and good night or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye. Thank you so much, Yudia. Bye.
Thank you.